January 22nd, 1907, page 166. I met a famous woman doctor. Contrary to my imaginings of her, she was neither thick nor ugly. In fact, she didn't fit easily into a simple description at all. She came into our office after having read the records of Mary Mallon, and I was sitting at my desk, and she sat in front of my chief, and they began to discuss the case. Though I set the task of noting their discussion on our next plan of action, my eyes couldn't leave her. The stiffness of her forest green skirt suit, the brown curls, her silver spectacles, even the smell of the cold air that clung to her fascinated me. She was younger than I thought she'd be, perhaps the age of Anuska's friend Ida, and with that mature manner. At one point, during the mention of me in the conversation, she turned and frankly looked back over at me with her wire-rimmed spectacles. But before I could look away, she smiled warmly and returned her attention to Mr. Soper, and I could hardly keep note of all they discussed. Though my shorthand had improved greatly, Dr. Baker told Mr. Soper about her experiences with the illnesses and the death of the underfed, the neglected infants, and the firm way she has gone about righting the situation. She said she often rescued babies from drunken parents, and she understood these poorer people, the fear of the health inspectors, and anyone who threatened their ways of living. She had used direct force in such cases, she said, and it always worked. I couldn't picture Dr. Baker forcing Mary to give a sample, convincing her with clever words perhaps, but not forcing. Once the discussion with Mr. Soper was through, Dr. Baker came to my desk where I was scribbling notes, and I looked up and caught by the boldness of her manner. "So, you're the one keeping such neat and precise records," she said. I nodded into the bright light of her scrutiny. "You seem to truly understand the importance of your data and how it reflects the situation," she went on, talking to me as if I were an associate. I glanced over at my chief, who wore a small, satisfied smile. He gave me a brief nod, and I returned the gaze back to the doctor. "Yes," I finally said. "Are you interested in the sciences, Prudence?" she asked. "Very much so, ma'am," I said. "Which branch?" she asked. My tongue froze. I couldn't define for her what I didn't know. "Research, surgery, medicine?" she asked. She seemed genuinely curious about the answer. "Well, ma'am, before I met you, I didn't know there were schools for girls like me," I said. She looked questioningly at me, and so I clarified. I didn't know girls could go to a science school." She put her hand on her hip and said, "There certainly are schools for girls like you, Prudence. I wish more girls knew that. The only way for us to progress is by getting out of the factories and going to school." Her ardent conviction allowed me to dare to question. "May I ask what school you attended, ma'am?" "I'm a graduate of the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania," she said. The medical college, especially for women? In Pennsylvania. I tried to imagine what it would be like. I asked her how one found the opportunity and how one managed the cost, which I guessed was well beyond the $22 I had saved so far, but I could only nod. "Come and visit me in my office sometime," she said. "We'll talk." The corners of her mouth rose into that warm smile. "I would very much like that, ma'am," I said. She nodded once again to me, once to Mr. Soper, and I knew why Mr. Biggs had chosen her to reach out to Mary Mallon. The cook would not be able to resist her.